I need glasses. Welcome to 2 Month Review. I need glasses. Everybody in here looks smart except for me. Damn it.
I don't super need them. They can go up here.
That makes me look smart too. So yeah, this is a cold open to the 2 Month Review. Near Walking Dead.
I think I might just see the words. Actually, I do. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Welcome to 2 Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take one giant book, break it down bit by bit, section by section, talk about it, analyze it, make jokes. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books, and these 3 months, we've been doing Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellman, and today I'm joined as always by guest Brian Wood.
I don't like the way that you say "as always." It makes it sound like it's a bummer to have me on, and so I'm only going to do a few more episodes of this, and I'm done for the season. Okay. But thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss literature with you, Chad. Wonderful to be here.
Good to have you. And we're joined by Assistant Books Editor at Tin House, Elizabeth DeMeo.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
See, you're excited to have her on. She
Yeah.
got a really nice, like, hey, cool. We have somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. So somebody doesn't believe in Impossible Burgers.
Yeah, I mean, reading this book as a vegan is a special experience.
I'll bet so.
Geez,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, it only took you 30 seconds to say you're vegan. That didn't take long.
She also drives a Prius.
I do not, but I used to date someone that does, which
I like that. That's a good answer. How are you doing, by the way? So good to see you and hear from you. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. What's the world of books looking like on the West Coast?
Good. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I should have brought in some for like show and tell that we're doing new titles, but I don't have any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, alas. I mean, it's a little quiet now because it's December, you know?
Yeah.
We have some good stuff coming out in January. E.J. Coe's book, The Magical Language of Others, that's what I'm really excited about. It sort of engages with poetry and translation, so it's of interest to like everyone here.
This should be of interest to everybody. Get it?
Everybody. Yeah. But it's nice to be back on the East Coast too. I'm from the East Coast originally, so I miss it a lot. And yeah, it's lovely.
How are things going at Tin House generally? Now that the magazine's done now, right?
Yes, there's no more magazine. The last issue came out in June, but I've always been working on the book side, so it didn't really impact me. And when I started, they knew there wasn't going to be any more magazine. So yeah, I mean, I feel like we're only kind of devoting more resources to books. So for us, that's exciting, even though it's bittersweet to see the magazine go. And then the workshops are just incredible. As always, they just announced the new summer workshop faculty. If you go look on our website and our Twitter, you'll see all of them.
Yeah. I
don't work on that. All the credit goes to the people that do Lance in India, but the faculty list is just like stunning. Some of my favorite names are on there. Renee Gladman's coming. I adore her. Carmen Maria Machado, Alyssa Washuta, just like everyone. Go look. It's going to be great. And Brian?
How many workshops do you guys do every year? Is it just, there's more than just the summer one, right?
Yeah, there absolutely is. Yeah, so the summer is like the biggest one. It's a week long. Everybody comes in, and that's like all staff goes to that. But then throughout the year, there are a bunch of smaller ones that are focused on particular genres or sort of with different purposes. And you can, if anyone wants to learn more, it's all on our website. There are lots of various scholarships that not a lot of other types of places offer. There will be scholarships for like parents or people that were formerly incarcerated or people that are immigrants, just like great stuff that I'm like, proud to be associated with.
Yeah, so I have Mira Jacobs, which is kind of cool, doing the like visual, right? That's like really neat.
So that's really interesting, actually. The first time that we had a graphic person at the summer workshop was last year, and it was Kristen Radke, who Anthony and I are both close with. She's lovely and super talented, and she just killed it at the workshop. Was great, and one of the people in her workshop group were actually publishing her book. So Tin House kind of getting more into graphic now. Her name's Courtney Cook. We're doing her graphic memoir, The Way She Feels. It's a collection of essays about sort of living with some mental illness and living through it, and it's great. It's really smart. And then now we have Mira coming, who I don't know if you've read her book, Good Talk, but like I loved it. I thought it was.
I looked at the pictures.
Yeah.
No, that's an amazing book. It looks so pretty. The packaging is fantastic. They did a really good job with that.
One World, I think, did that one.
I don't remember who, but
great stuff over there, I think. But yeah.
Chad and I were just talking about, was it Wells Tower? Was that last year?
It's 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't this year. I wasn't there for that.
No, I know. But we were just talking about the workshop actually just a couple days ago. It's interesting. It was funny timing. Amazing list of instructors. Yeah. Segue.
Yeah. So should we talk about this section of ducks? We're going from page 862 to 917. This is our penultimate episode. Next week, I think Brian and I will alone, right before the end of the year, finish this entire book. So you're almost there, guys. You're almost there.
How are you feeling like this far in? So I've seen your first in the 2-month review and then a little bit of the one about patterns, but I'm curious, like now.
The patterns one was very inspired.
Are you as excited as you were at the beginning? Do you have like the same energy, or are you both kind of like,
Hold on, I'll tell you something. This is part of the patterns episode. All this crazy writing. It looks like like one of those people with the maps that you write on the wall, like a murder map. Is my book. I have the same energy to an extent. I think that this would be. It's well served by reading it slowly, because you do get to get into the details and some of the references and see all the things that are in there. But it is a sort of book that's propulsive, and I'll bet be reading it in over like a 3-week period I'd have more energy by the end by just going instead of going and stopping and then waiting like a few days and go and stop and then waiting a few days. But I think actually I'm going to probably finish it early, because I just want to read the rest of it now and see what happens there. But and there's always there's been little stray hints that there would be some sort of confluence of these two lines, or some event that might tie a lot of things together. And this is the first time that we do in this chapter get a direct crossing of the narrator when the dog goes missing.
Yep.
So we got that homeward bound vibe going now.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's like a Disney movie. Loves movies. It's like a perfect.
Well, and then Jake sees it right at his window. He could be like the little protagonist of the film, and then he changes his mind right when they tell him it's something else. They
tell him it's a abominable snowman.
Yeah, which I love.
Abominable. I'm like, that's not even a word. I don't know what.
Yeah,
it's a great drug. Yeah, yeah. That's like the first time that there is that cross. It was interesting that it comes so late in here, even though we've been sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have moments where it almost crossed. The lioness loses her cubs during the rainstorm that traps them at the mall, I think.
Yeah.
So there are things that are parallel, or near.
You feel prepared, right? You get a sense that, as you said, it's going to happen. I wasn't like, oh my God, Right. I think I would have been surprised if it didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel having jumped in to read it pretty quickly to come on here?
Yeah, I read most of this book in the past several days, so it's the complete opposite experience of you two. I was gonna say the same argument as what you said though for reading it long. I was like, it rewards a fast reading because all the resonances are still in my head. So I right on page 800, I'm like, oh yeah, from page 300. She's picking it right back up, her blue earring or whatever. It's there. So yeah, I don't know. But I also, every time in grad school that I read a book really, really fast, I would always be like, this book rewards a fast reading. This is how it was meant to be read at a sweep. So,
it's just a self-fulfilling bias. You've got a cognitive bias that however you read the book is the book.
So we can say it rewards both experiences are enjoyable.
Oh my God. Yeah, I guess, it really does. And I've seen people like it both ways. When the episode a few weeks ago when Rebecca and Josh were on, Rebecca was talking about how she read it like over a couple months or a month, but like didn't look up any of the references, didn't check any of the stuff that was going on, and thought like if she went back and reread it, she could do that. Like even the stuff in the back, the what you call it, all the acronyms. She didn't look up any of the ones from the book, but said like it would be interesting to go into that. And I haven't. Every so often, I'll hit one where I'll just be like, I wonder what this is. And like that week's one had the cheeseburger emoji outcry. Yeah. And I Googled that and immediately was like, oh my God, I didn't know about this, but this is a real thing. So like a lot of the times where she uses like the caps as if they were a search thing, I'll put those in sometimes just to see what they are. And it's always something real. It's always something I didn't hear about before reading this book.
So when you did the patterns episode, you were like so excited that they had just mentioned Guadalajara because you were going.
Yeah.
Also, Brian, I have a theory that you thought it was Joan Didion because of the Joan Baez song Guantanamera, because that is what I always think of.
Maybe, yeah.
So when I read this section, Anthony had just finished at dinner explaining to me what Florence, y'all, is.
Yeah, are you guys gonna pass it?
Oh my God, what are the odds? And we freaked out. But I feel like there's just so much in here that actually the odds are probably fairly high that like something in your discourse will just pop up. And it'll feel to every reader like, oh my God, the serendipity, you know?
So last episode, which was like 2 days ago, Brian and I talked about Baked Alaska, and I was like, I didn't really even know what Baked Alaska was until very recently, and then it was in here, and then I was listening to The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, which I've been listening to as an audiobook since June. Clearly not very into it, and they mentioned fucking Baked Alaska in there too. Yesterday. So it's like everywhere now. This book is everything. It's like the Finnegan's Wake of contemporary times.
It's all in here.
I do love that. And I love the slow reading part for me also because I have so many other things going on that when I start to dedicate too much time to one book, like to read something like this rather fast, I feel like I'm not doing my work and I don't enjoy the book as much for some reason. Like I'll be like, oh shit, I'm like wasting time doing this. I need to, get back to reading people's manuscripts or whatever. So the slow reading sort of allows me to feel like less guilty and actually get into enjoying it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. But so what other sections you wanted to talk about? The Stacy. So the other big thing that happened. So the dog Jim was missing. They don't know why, but we know it's because he snapped his leash free and went off with the lioness. Yeah. And the other thing was that Stacy and the narrator start going to family therapy.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the page that sort of starts. It's a little later in the chapter. Let's see here. I think 903, it kind of starts in earnest. And then Stacy sort of airs her grievances about all the things that went wrong during her childhood.
Yeah, so the thing I was kind of confused by it there, 903, right? Yeah. Is that they have two therapists?
Yeah, Kate and Chris, and then one falls asleep.
That's why you need two, I suppose. Maybe this is why therapy's never worked.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was odd. I've never heard of that.
Me neither.
Is that what couples therapy is?
I have no idea.
No, I don't Of course, that's not what it is.
Are you sure? I can see that. Have a couple talking to another couple.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, just one reason this stood out is, I have divorced parents and we did family therapy. So I was like, oh, this is interesting to me. And I think, I don't know, I mean, this is one of the few times I sort of started to feel sympathetic for Stacy just a little bit when the mom can't remember like any of the things. I was like, oh, that would be frustrating for a kid. I mean, I think Stacy too. I think you talked about her in another episode that I haven't heard. So if I'm like treading old ground here, but
I don't remember what we talked about.
I mean, she's such a kind of flat to me as a character, which I think in maybe a different book we might be like, wow, she's pretty like viewed in a pretty negative way for most of the book. And I feel like, I don't know, like somehow she seems to get away with it in this book, but it sort of grates on me at times. Like, it's a pretty harsh treatment of a teen girl, and most teen girls I know aren't that bad. Like, I don't think I was that much of a brat. And I feel like I didn't have friends that were like that.
I can say that the part that, let's talk about Stacey. This will be fun.
Like, in terms of characterization, like, is that okay? Is she a full character? Like,
but is there anyone aside from the narrator who's a full character?
Yeah, I mean,
her, and like, my feeling with Stacey is that it's a good way of illustrating her own self-doubts and like her belief that she's not a good parent, and that like right in that family therapy section is where she has the part about depression that I marked as like, oh yeah, this is the real shit. Where is it? I'll find it in a second. Right here. Yeah, the fact that I'm spiraling, I'm flipping out here. The fact that some people know ahead of time if they're getting depressed and they can avert it, but I never know ahead of time. It just happens, and suddenly I don't feel like doing anything anymore, and everything just seems ruined and hopeless. And I'm a failure, a flop, sweat, strike, Jim. The fact that I can cry about more than one thing at a time. Well, I guess everyone can. Like, I think that Stacey, her treatment of Stacey in some ways, in her mind, is like very reflective of her own failures. That's where she always talks about not remembering things. And like, she remembers these weird little details, which is kind of how the brain works. And like, I don't remember shitloads of stuff about my kids growing up. The old ones. I don't remember much about Alex either, but like the old ones, like my daughter's 15 and we got divorced when she would have been 6.
Yeah.
I think. And like, I don't know. I remember bits of like what happened there and like traumas that she went through, but I don't really think I have a good handle on it. But I can tell you that as a 15-year-old girl, she 100% rebelled against her mom and not against me. And that seems to kind of go through here too, of like, so there's that line later on that's like, maybe the first thing you have to do as a teenager is hate your parents, even if they're not that bad.
Oh yeah. 907, I'd underline that. Yeah, the fact that maybe most daughters hate their mom, the fact that maybe it's natural. Blah, blah. Step 1 is to hate your parents, even if your parents really aren't that bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get that. I mean, I remember I was fairly rebellious as a child, and like, but the thing about her being a well-rounded character too is like, weirdly at this point in time for Chloe, who is 15, so basically the same age, like I don't really know what's going on in her life. Like she doesn't know much. Like I can extrapolate and make guesses, and I know she has her friends and she does certain things, but they'll tell stories sometimes. And I'm just like, whoa, like I have no idea what your internal thoughts or life is like at this moment in time. And I wonder if that's part of what's being reflected here too, and that she's not a full character because the narrator's very limited perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe another interesting character to kind of talk about besides that is Leo, because he is just so consistently good, like the whole book. And I'm like, who, like, what? Like, he doesn't get frustrated. He's just like traveling, supporting the family. Like he buys her like a stool to sit on while she cooks, and he's just like, sit down more, like watch your movies while you're making your pie. Like, I just feel like this guy has like a heart of gold. And I have been kind of worried that, I don't know, he's going to die or something bad is going to happen. But
at the very beginning, I thought I was like, there's no way this is going to end in some like terrible conflict, or like, we're going to find out that he's like murdering 40 people on his trips.
Well, no, it would end with Leo killing everybody. Because we've seen like 9 or 10 times it mentioned like men murdering people because of their hatred towards women, right?
Yeah.
He says they're just so emotional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so emotional. But maybe he is like supposed to be a prototype of how someone can be a good, supportive husband.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know, hard to believe a little.
And he's always kind of been the exception, because she'll go off for a little bit, and but not Leo, or Leo's good to me, or Leo loves me, or that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and she has so much anger at men, but she has this great partner, which is interesting.
Yeah. It really is. And I mean, it goes so far against like typical contemporary conventions in fiction that it is off-putting at first in a way, or it's like shocking in some sense.
Or you just don't believe it. Like you're like the other shoe has to drop. Like they're setting it up for him to.
This is like Jacob's Ladder scenario. It's their final moment before it guns everyone down. There is no Leo. It was a ghost.
I thought about it. I mean, it's just like, okay.
One of the things I found interesting in this, and I'm not sure how it plays out yet, but it's something, again, like if a way to teach the book is the idea that's been introduced a few times of how men are causing a fraction and friction between female companionship and like mothers and daughters.
Yeah.
And we're obviously we see that chasm with Stacy, right? With her being this kind of like flat, two-dimensional character that's not rendered really well. And I wonder if the narrator's doing that, or the author's doing that through the narrator to also show that rift or that. But I want to see how that kind of plays out with the forces in her life that are breaking apart her relationship with her daughter.
Yeah.
Because you see it too with like it's also echoed with the lioness, right? It's severe weather patterns, flash flooding, like the environment crumbling that's separated her from her family, right? And as she's trying to reconnect with them, she's being shot at, yelled at, whatever. So I'm curious to see how that plays out with our narrator and what's going to continue to cause that rift with her own daughter, or can it be healed or mended in some way? I don't know. I'm leaning towards probably no.
Yeah, so that's a question. Like, what do you think is going to happen over the last 50 pages of this?
So you read to the end, Chad?
No, I've only read to 17, but after this, I'm going to read to the end over like the next couple of days instead of waiting until we do our next podcast.
I think I will too. Brian, have you got to the end, or are you here too?
I stopped at the wrong spot. I stopped at 9:03 at the end, so I didn't get to the family therapy section. Yeah. So no, I don't know what's happening. Obviously, this section kind of reminded me a little bit of when she went out got trapped in the snowstorm and her car broke down.
Yeah.
Where you get this feeling of like plot or thrust that's pushing the narrative a little bit more. With the dog going missing and then
Stacy going into therapy. I think it's trying to call the next thing.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. And so it's reading faster and faster. Like there's a more frenetic pace to it that I'm finding in this section.
That's interesting because they pointed this out before, and I'd noticed it in this section too. That I think I'm sure it was Rebecca had said that it seems like the stories get longer as this goes along, like the narrative stories, and I get that sense too. Like the Stacy family therapy thing is pages, whereas at the beginning there's a lot of stuff that's kind of thrown at you. And not expounded upon, and these ones are getting longer, but it makes it seem to go faster because there is more of a plot rather than just following the voice. But yeah, it's interesting.
We got a deep dive into.
I think when they went to the mall, that was the first time I wrote. Yeah, my notes say more action, feels more plotty. But it kind of, I was like, it's not. They just went to a mall, but like in this, it was like a huge. But I had the same feeling, right? It starts to sort of stay in action for a little longer.
There's some good Ohio racism in here too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and she just wants to go back to New Haven, which I'm like, that's not. I don't know.
Man, but seriously, fuck Ohio. Ohio is a garbage state. I was at a lunch with a guy last week who was like insisting that Columbus is like the coolest city in America. And I was like, you're out of your goddamn mind. Like there's no way Columbus is the coolest city in America. It is not. It is just generic.
Whatever. They have $2 radio.
They do have $2 radio. That's cool.
One of the authors is going to be at the.
Yeah, I mean, I love him. I feel like he's starting a movement actually to bring people to Ohio. Like a lot of authors are sort of in there.
Yeah.
Don't do it, guys. Stay away.
But even in this section, there's even a deeper dive with even like the silly things like how far she goes into Harrison Ford and Witness and Tommy Lee Jones. Like before, it'd be just a couple of lines, and we get 3 or 4 pages breaking down some of the intricacies of. I had to remember, like, man, I saw that movie in the theater with my mom and dad. And I think that was the last time I saw it. So it's been about 25 years since I've seen that film. But,
we watched it in a screenwriting course. They were like, this is a great film. We're going to show you Witness. Okay.
I had an instructor tell me that beat for beat, it's like a very well written, like it's a very tight, super structured plot.
Study for that, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I saw that when I was sick, like years ago as a kid, like on HBO or something, and like being like, oh yeah, it's cool, I guess. I don't remember it very well.
I think that's right. In the bathroom, doesn't he hide by like standing on the toilet or something clever in the beginning? And I was like, that's like, if I ever am in that, like, that's what I'm going to do.
I would say my favorite line that relates to the movies is on 9/13. The fact that Gene Kelly's too goofy and American in Paris. The fact that movie just doesn't make any sense. But hardly musicals make any sense. which is my favorite. I dislike musicals quite strongly.
But you do. There's so many in this book.
I know. That's why I haven't seen any of them, because I just can't take it. Like Leo can't either. At some point, they're always goofy. They always just burst out in the songs and like emotions, and the expressions and actors of in musicals is just too much for me. Not a fan.
Well, I think
Isn't your daughter into musicals?
Yeah, I know. She's not here, so she doesn't watch this, so it doesn't matter.
Connect with your blood, man. Come on, go watch a musical with her. Good Lord.
I go to her plays. That's good enough. You want me to go take her to see Cats?
Well, what I was gonna say, Stacy doesn't like Cats, right? She likes like the older. Yeah. They have a whole bit about that.
She likes the one that she likes the most is South Pacific.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, it's got some silly songs in it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
I watched that with my mom. I remember watching South Pacific with my mom. Yeah.
I remember having a crush on a girl who was in that when I was in high school, and I went and saw it there, and I was like, this is insufferable, but like, if not for a girl, I would never be here. Like, the one that's the worst musical I think is Carousel. I think Carousel is the one that I went to also for a girl, different girl, and was like, I hate this musical so much. I almost like laughed because it's so boring and so bad. And I was like, no, I just have to make it through. Just have to make it through.
I never hear about Carousel. Like, I feel like it's faded away.
I hope so. Good. There's better options now, like Hamilton or something. But
yeah, there you go. Was this pre-Hamilton?
This book?
No.
She doesn't.
I don't think so.
Think so. But yeah, because Hamilton became really big like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, so she would have known about it.
Yeah, there's something here that's like from like 2017.
Yeah, no, it's like pretty current.
Yeah, most of the political references are new.
What?
But the pop culture, the political references are newer, but all the pop culture references seem to be deeper dives, like are older. It seems like.
I mean, it sort of fits in with her interview where she said she doesn't read any books that were written after the dropping of the nuclear bomb because that changed the way that people write about stuff, and that she likes to read things from earlier in the century, like Virginia Woolf and whatever else. There's some, I mean, that's an interesting possible, like, again, like someone that could study or write a paper about, of like the way that she has like all these old things and those kind of old tropes of like, of families and of art and of everything in contrast to the politics that are very damaged and broken, the environment, the Trump stuff, the guns, and then trying to return to like a simpler time by watching these movies over and over again, in which, like, you know, none of that stuff takes place. Like all these, I don't know for sure because I haven't seen all of these, but like a lot of them seem to be pretty wholesome, like the older ones, anyways.
I mean, it's complicated. Maybe the newest, like, sort of.
Yeah.
Fugitive. Wouldn't the Fugitive be the newest or no?
Which one?
The Fugitive.
Oh,
no, I think It's Complicated came out after, but I don't know.
I haven't seen you're right. 2009.
Yeah. But even that, I mean, those are both sort of feel like they could have been older, I think. Like it's a sort of a film of a certain type.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Alec Baldwin, Meryl Streep, and Steve Martin are in it, which feels like it's from like 1975 or something. Like, it did not do well on Rotten Tomatoes either. I've never seen this movie.
I've seen it like 3 times.
Do you like it?
I think it's fun. You know? Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you want like a fun romantic comedy, it's fun.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Let me see what else was in here that I was going to say.
Well, our narrator too, like we've discussed before, but she's very wholesome as well. Like her.
When she thinks about sex, she's like, "Oh, egads! Like, what did I?"
Yeah, exactly. Or unwilling to use profanity, or if she's going to use profanity, just F dash dash dash. You know.
Yeah, like fuck hen instead of huck.
Yeah.
But it never has the fuck in there. It's just the F.
Yeah.
Oh, I marked this because I thought this was cool. The fact that a mountain lion can leap 30 or 40 feet in one bound on the flat. The fact that I'd like to see that, I would too. I would think that would be amazing. That seems so cool.
Yeah.
And oh, this is the other thing. So you know how we were talking about how everything keeps coming up in here because there's everything. On the last episode, we talked about that remake of Moby Dick without the whale, but with the dragon. Moby Dick's in here on that page on 872. The fact that we have
four copies.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is weird. And then there was oddly too. This is tangential, but in the last episode, I talked about Marguerite Young's Miss Macintosh, My Darling, and today saw a Paris Review article about how someone read that and is like, this is the longest, most underread book in letters history, and it's like wild. And like the description of it in the Paris Review piece makes it sound fantastic and just crazy, absolutely crazy and hallucinatory. So, but it's funny that then came up too. Like everything comes up through this book. It's all in here. And when you write this long, I mean, you have to get lucky a little bit, but like it's also probably the Bader-Meinhof syndrome.
I was reading it this morning. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Chad, I saw in one of the episode descriptions you were talking about how you want like a book of essays about this book with just like writers, editors, critics, and then like moms. I agree. Like I feel like everyone just has like their way, a million ways in, you know, and I would love to see.
And it wouldn't have to be, we talked about it wouldn't have to be super academic. It could be like.
No, I don't think it should.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of people have a lot of takes on this and like different approaches. And that's what would make it really fun.
Well, didn't
like my essay would be on Charmin.
What?
I said my essay would be on Charmin toilet paper. It just came up. That's the only brand we buy at our house. And I accidentally bought, I accidentally bought the wrong brand one time. It was just like, what are you doing? This is a Charmin house. We don't.
You had brand loyalty to toilet paper.
Well, no, but it's in here it's like what a nightmare it was to have the wrong thing. Like, how does this exist? Why would you have this? Kind of like it's silly, right? But you could go places with that.
About which way it should go, like in the front or in the back. Do people really fight about that? I feel like I see that in books and it's fake, but like.
I do know that when I do remember this from when Chloe was born, that my aunt told me that you're supposed to do it one way instead of the other because it stops when they start pulling down the toilet paper. It's more likely to stop. But I don't think that that's true. But I did have a discussion about it, 15 years ago. But I don't really remember what the outcome was, and I don't pay any attention whatsoever.
Ryan, in your essay, I think you need to explore this as well.
Yeah,
I think I know the answer to that though. It's not as popular now, but they used to put patterns on toilet paper, whether it was like check marks or lines or flowers. Okay. And so if you do the toilet paper roll where you pull down, you'll see the pattern. If you do it the other way, you don't see the pattern.
Oh,
that's true.
So I think it might be back to when it was like that, but they don't really do that as much anymore. But I think that's probably.
Why were they doing that, and why did that stop? You need to do a deep dive on this. Like toilet paper would be a fascinating article.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also Isaac's 4, and she asked me the other day, Dad, how do they make toilet paper? And I was like, like pulp or something. So we watched a 10-minute documentary on the manufacturing of toilet paper, and she just like soaked it all in, loved it. So I just watched how toilet paper gets made not that long ago, actually. But yeah, what a random question. Dad, I want to know how they make toilet paper. All right. Let's look it up. But yes, say hi. Okay, say bye.
Bye. Unplug it.
Oh, we're in the middle of recording right now, but we're still talking. I just was talking about you for just a second, but yes. Okay, hon, stop.
She fits. Frozen. That's a musical. There we go.
Which one?
She's from Frozen, right? Yeah. Perfect. In theme.
Go build a snowman. Go build a snowman. Go ahead. Yeah.
She's actually the only one that's dressed appropriately.
She's the only one that's absolutely. There's a bit in here too where she's like trying to stand up for herself with Peekaboo not paying her for for pies, which is fun.
Oh yeah, I loved that part. Yeah. We didn't answer your question, Chad, of like what we actually think will happen at the end, which I think is I would like to try and come up with a conjecture. I don't know that I have one, but I feel like this is the episode to ask that question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the lion has to.
What?
I hope they see each other.
Yeah. So she encounters the lion. That was initially what I thought would happen. As well, and I'm not certain. Like, it feels like they've crossed their paths, and maybe there's a different sort of approach where like you get something from the lion story and something from her story, and they don't have to like it doesn't have to be over. Like, they don't have to have the content, the whatever to get that message across to the readers. But then I don't know, and I feel like something has to happen with Stacy.
Okay. Well, so like the lion is disconnected from her cubs, right? And then we have a mom who's like sort of emotionally disconnected from her daughter. So like maybe.
Right. Something can happen there.
Yeah.
My guess is that the lioness and the mom have to die in some way, and their bodies have to be destroyed by the either patriarchy or like some echo of the patriarchy. Like, there has to be some sort of like final destruction of the female form and trying to protect their young.
There's a line,
would be my guess.
There's a line from an earlier section that was something like the fact that like society groups of people could either do things well or do things poorly. Like that whole, it'll either be a success or a failure that runs throughout this over and over. Something to that effect of like either society can do something right or it'll fail. And I feel like that might be a big message at the end of this too, is like, I don't know if it'll be hopeful or not hopeful, but there is this kind of contrast between the idea that like, well, the bad side, the pessimistic side would be that society doesn't work. And like, we destroyed the world, we're shooting this mountain lioness, everything's broken and she's broken. Or there could be a hopefulness where at the end, she doesn't feel quite so broken because of something that she's overcome, such as like a patriarchal structure preventing her from being close to Stacy. But I feel like that's going to be my prediction, is that the narrator is going to have one of these two sort of viewpoints at the end, and it'll either be overcoming something and feeling less broken or being completely destroyed.
I think you're right. It's going to have to do with kind of being alone or being lonely, and sort of whether she because that's, a big undercurrent too, is like, she feels so disconnected, and she'll think about talking to like Kathy, and then she won't, and then sort of by herself. And I feel like that'll be answered. Either it'll sort of remain just her, or she'll feel like a link.
Yeah.
Another option too could be going through some sort of experience or witnessing another experience, and it's just being another list, like it's just another the fact that. And it's like this endless, like mundane cycle. That's not going to be crazy high or crazy low, but like just another thing. Yeah. And like that would be kind of shattering as well. If it does that.
That's sort of like the Final Lot 49 answer too, which I was thinking. Like, you set up the 2 or 4 in that case possibilities, but then just don't resolve anything.
I feel like that's maybe the most heartbreaking answer.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way she might want to. She's gonna
satisfy
gut us. I know it. Satisfying?
Yeah.
No answers, no resolution. Same as it ever was. Cog in the wheel. Like
not the machine moment blowing everyone.
No, like it's just gonna be like whatever's the most important, crazy thing in your life is just so small and trivial and mundane, and it's meaningless, and that's our existence.
There is you talked about her passivity last time, Brian, and there is, and as you said the word, a bunch of things connected where she talks about witness all the time, which is a sort of a passive idea, like you witness something, you don't act upon it, you've witnessed it. And then she has a bit in here where she's like, well, I look out the window, I don't believe that the lion would be out there because I can look out the window, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, I'm like one of those flat earthers who thinks that the earth's flat because I just see, because it gets to get curved. And like
I don't see no curve, I think was the way it was. It was a great voice. It sounded so nice. Yeah.
the best flat earther in, I think it was Shaq said that he's like, yeah, I think the earth is flat. Like I've driven from Florida to California over and over and I've never gone down any hills.
Good point.
But he was just trolling everyone that is a flat earther, obviously.
She says that too in the therapy though, which I thought I had that all starred where she's like, oh, I'm deferential to men and like maybe I don't think about enough, but my daughter is, you know, intuiting that. Yeah. I felt like that was important.
Yeah.
For them.
And I don't know if this was a hint or not, but in the Harrison Ford movie, I forget the name of it now, Fugitive.
Yeah.
She mentions the fact like there's Julianne Moore pops up, and like she thought Julianne Moore would show up at the end as like maybe a love connection of some sort, but it never happens.
But then she says he could have got with someone else too, doesn't she?
Jane Lynch.
Yeah.
And he does. But I thought it was kind of like, I wondered if the author's being a little clever there with like dangling this. Here's this setup for this. Like obviously that's going to pay off because you wouldn't have this take place. But no, like the movie just forgets about her.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if that's a little setup or not.
The number of like just like pages between setups and payoffs sometimes is like just applause for this. Like it is so like restrained in how long she'll make you wait. And then you're just like, oh my God. I'm trying to think of like a really good example of that. But there are just a few when they come and you're like, like I thought you let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of a good
one. The one thing I keep telling people when recommending this book is like, I just tell them, I know it's like, it looks big and cumbersome, but like you're in safe hands. This is a fantastic author. She's not going to lead you astray. Like she's really good. Like really, really, you're in good hands. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And those setups, payoffs. Yeah.
The Booker person said like, this is actually the most like accessible book on the list or whatever, which I totally think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's pretty easy to enter in.
Yeah. And it doesn't make you, it never makes you feel stupid or overwhelmed or anything like that, which a book, like, I think when people see big books, that's their expectation, is it's going to be like difficult in the sense that it's going to make you feel like you don't know something.
Yeah.
Like Ulysses or.
Well, most big books have a cast of characters of like 200 people, or it takes place over several generations. Like they'll make it very, complicated, intertwined. And this is the antithesis of that, right?
Yeah. Although the time thing on this, when we started out, we were talking about it being like a day, and it's definitely not. This is like a very, I mean, it might be in that her memories, she's remembering things as if they were present tense, like when Stacy goes missing. But like there might be a current moment that this is all taking place, and it encompasses like a far more than a day. Like as it comes to months.
I think too with the time, Chad, like you had made an interesting point in a previous episode. Sometimes you think things are happening right in the present and we're just in this present, and then suddenly they're not. Like she'll sort of be like, oh, this thing happened in the near present and now I'm telling you retroactively, but it's a little, the time's funny. Like it's like doing feedback sort of.
Someone could plot out like what the time of these events are. Like
if I went back and read again, that's what I would want to do, is just make a timeline and just be like, okay, right. Because when you start, you're pretty much in a day. Like you're like, okay, she's going through the morning, she's making the pies, they're going to the dentist. But then
that stuff happened a long time ago, right? Like within by the time you're here.
Yeah, no. I think they go to the grocery store, and I feel like that was the last point. I was like, we're still in the day, and then we sort of went off.
Although that one too, like, so the grocery store thing is funny to me because it talks about how Jake takes his shirt off, and like the mom comes and yells at her for her son not having a shirt on, and it's implied then that it was summertime, but then it says like it's winter frequently. There's winter outside her window, and then at one point, I think it's in this section, or maybe it was the last one. It references, well, it's only April now. So
I thought February at the beginning. Did I make that up?
I feel like I saw April at some point, and I marked it, and I'm never going to be able to find it because this is too long. But I feel like at one point it said it's
Christmas trees for a long time, like in the snow.
Yeah, it's April when Stacy goes and runs away. That she's like, she has the blanket or the sleeping bag, but it's still cold because it's only April.
I think earlier it's February, but I don't know why I have that in my mind.
I don't doubt it. I think that's true. I just flipped up into one part that I meant to mention last time and I didn't. It ties into all of our things. So this year, Winter Institute is in Baltimore. And Anthony will be driving down to Baltimore, which according to this, Baltimore, world headquarters of the KKK, which is not cool. Yeah.
I think so. When I was in Arkansas, I hope I'm getting this right. My girlfriends and I wanted to do like a ladies' weekend for our Lit Mag staff so we could bond like free of male presence. And we rented an Airbnb in a nearby town. And I think that the town was like a center for KKK activity. And we didn't know that until we went there. But it was very odd and weird. And I don't know. It was bizarre. But I didn't know that about Baltimore.
I didn't either. And yeah, I saw it in here and marked it specifically because I was like, oh, I'm going to Baltimore. This is not cool.
Huh. I wonder if that's true.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's one of those things I'm not going to Google either. I don't want to get a look. I've Googled a lot of weird shit, but like that one, maybe I'm going to let slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. The other day I was talking to John O'Brien from Delkey, and he's talking about being Arvo Part, the composer, in here as well. Circled. It's everything. Everything.
It is everything.
But anyway, so I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this one up? Let you get on the road.
Y'all always read your favorite sentences, right?
Yeah. What's yours?
Hold on. I know. Let me find it. If either of you have yours, feel free to go before me.
I'm going to read mine, but it's not really my favorite, but it's a question I have. The fact that some people get sound wave tattoos now, sound memories, the fact that the tattoo plays a snippet of music or whatever back to you if you scan it or something with your iPhone. The fact that one girl got her grandmother's voice tattooed on her chest somehow, and somebody else got some advice from his dad tattooed on his arm so he can listen to it again and again. Is this a thing? Is this really a thing?
I don't know.
That's insane. And then she talks about like the guy who gets like his son tattooed on his face, a picture of his son on his face, and like how fucked up that must be. And like,
getting it as his son ages.
Yeah.
What if he has another son? Like, I think that's worse because then he kind of has to do it.
I'm opposed to face tattoos, just across the board. Just gonna say that. Don't care for him. But yeah, sound wave tattoos, that's weird. Is it like a QR code?
I'll say it's probably just a QR code. It's basically lame is what it is.
That's terrible.
It's like, why don't you just have a memory? Like instead of your phone having your memory for you.
Yeah.
How about just remember them? Like, oh, I think fondly of that.
What about when QR codes don't exist anymore?
Yeah, exactly. What am I going to do with my VCR collection of VHS tapes? You know, I got to get a new, like all those boxes. Yeah. Because I collect those. Yeah.
What's your favorite line, Brian?
I won't read the line out loud, but I love the part where she was complaining. Her and her husband were complaining about Harrison Ford running away from the train and just running straight, like turn left, turn left. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like in the movie Prometheus, I remember when that happened, the big thing is going to fall on them and they're just running away from it. This big, long thing. It's like, just turn left. What's wrong with you? And maybe that's kind of like this story. Just
it's late.
That's what it is.
Explanation.
Really? Every time he's in a bike accident, they're all in bike accidents.
Yep.
But even the voice in that turn up and stuff. Like that's a great way of putting that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And stuff. Yeah. I noticed too, she doesn't say like a lot. There was like one time she said it and I was like, oh, that's kind of a break, but I don't know. It's surprising.
Very interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from anyone?
I want to read the end. I'm curious what happens.
Me too. So next week, we'll figure out what day you want to do it, Brian, before the end of the year. I'll be gone, but we can do it somehow. We're going to go over the last bit, and this season will be put to bed, and we're going to take a little break. And then I guess the next book that we're planning on doing is The Dreamed Part, Rodrigo Frazan's follow-up to Invented Part, which was the first season of the 2-month review. So we'll be able to get into get into his world once again, and that will be very fun because that book is fun. And I've already read that twice, so that this time I do know all the things that are going on in it, and maybe it'll make it a little bit easier to recall. But
Elizabeth, you guys are going to drive past the Florence, y'all, right?
Oh no, Anthony! Before this podcast, Anthony looked it up, and he was like, "We're going through."
No, you're going to drive right past it, right after Cincinnati. It's right there.
I'll text you both a picture when we
Yeah.
make
Okay. Yeah.
Do it. Where can
it's like 20 minutes after Cincinnati when you get into Kentucky. It's right there on the right-hand side. You'll see it. Florence, y'all.
Oh, cool. So, where can people find you online, Elizabeth?
Oh, well, you just added me on my Twitter, so that'll link you to my Twitter. And then I have a website for myself. I think it's just my name. Hold on. Yeah, it is. ElizabethDeMeo.com. If you want to know anything about me or Tin House, you can find it all.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I'll link to that too in the show notes. So, Brian, everyone needs to go buy Joy Time Kill Box.
Yeah, please do. That'd be great.
Congrats on your book. I didn't even say. I was going to say it at the beginning, and then we segued.
Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you so much, though. I'll have you over for drinks when you come back. We'll celebrate.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I would love that. I want to talk to you more about it. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Well, cool. Till next week. To Florence, y'all.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dad.
Yeah, of course. It's great. Thank you for coming on.
Bye.